Dear students, welcome. Today we will discuss another important theme of social research, and that is sampling. Sampling method has a tremendous utility and significance in social research in general and social survey in particular. Social survey means any systematic gathering of information on a defined social group or a systematic means of gathering data on people's behavior, attitude, or opinions by questioning a defined group. Social surveys are conducted on a plethora of social issues and topics. They are used to provide a descriptive statistics at local, regional, national, and international levels to examine the social phenomena such as poverty, work and employment, social stratification, or the experience of crime, discrimination, or racism, and to investigate the causal processes and hypotheses about social processes. Social surveys or data collection exercises can be divided into two general categories on the basis of their extensiveness, namely census method and sampling method. Now let us discuss census method first. A census method is a study of all individuals within a population. It is a process of collecting demographic, social, and economic data from all the members of a population. Usually, the census is an official research activity carried out by the government. Next, sampling method. In sampling method, data is to be collected from some selected members of the population. That is, only selected members of the population are questioned or tested. In social science, it is not feasible to collect data from the entire population on variable of interests. So, researchers usually prefer to go for sampling method. Now let us discuss sampling method in detail. Sampling has three basic units. Number 1, population. Number 2, sample. And number 3, elements. Population. Population refers to the entire set of the individuals or other entities to which study findings are to be generalized. It also refers to all those people with the characteristics which the researcher wants to study within the context of a particular research problem. A population is a group of individual persons, objects, or items from which samples are taken for measurement. For example, a population could be all students in a college, all patients of the hospital, all prisoners in the prison, all customers in a big departmental store, all households in the village, and so on. It is also known as universe. Now, let us discuss sample. Sample is a subset of a population that is used to study the population as a whole. A sample is a finite part of a statistical population whose properties are studied to gain information about the whole. When dealing with people, it can be defined as a set of respondents selected from a larger population for the purpose of survey. A sample is a portion of population and is expected to be representative of population. In fact, it is designed to be a precise reflection of population. Now, elements. Elements are units of analysis. These units are mostly people, the individual members of a population whose characteristics are to be measured. They can also be households, castes, village, or even societies. Based upon the above three basic units, sampling can be defined as the act, process, or technique of selecting a suitable sample or a representative part of population for the purpose of determining parameters or characteristics of whole population. Sampling may also be defined as the selection of some part of an aggregate or totality on basis of which a judgment or inferences about the aggregate or totality is made. In other words, it is the process of obtaining information about an entire population by examining only a part of it. Rarely is there time or money to talk to or contact every person, organization, or unit of analysis in a given region, community, organization, or network. Consequently, Choosing or sampling from a larger population is required as a way for a researcher to make relatively few observations and generalize from those observations to a much wider population. To draw conclusion about the populations from samples, we must use inferential statistics which enable us to determine a population's characteristics by directly observing only a portion or a sample of a population. We obtain a sample rather than a complete enumeration of the population for many reasons. Obviously, it is cheaper to observe a part rather than whole, but we should prepare ourselves to cope up with the dangers of using samples. In this lecture, we will investigate various kinds of sampling procedures. Some are better than others, but all may yield samples that are inaccurate and unreliable. We must learn how to minimize these dangers, but also some potential errors is the price we must pay for convenience and saving the samples provided. Now, let us discuss principles of sampling. The main principles behind sampling is that we seek knowledge about the total population by observing few samples and extend our inferences about the sample to entire population. The important principles of sampling are: sample units must be chosen in a systematic and objective manner. Sample units must be clearly defined and easily identifiable. Sample units must be independent to each other. Sample units of sample should be used throughout the study. Sample must be the representative of population. The selection process should be based on sound criteria and should avoid errors, biases, and distortions. Now, in order to understand the concept of sampling, let us first understand some key terms used in sampling. Some of the basic terms and concepts in sampling are as follows. Number 1, sampling unit. This is either a single member, element, or a collection of members, elements, subject to the data analysis and selection in a sample. A sampling unit is not necessarily an individual. It may be an event, a city, a village, and so on. Next, sampling frame. A list of all elements or other units containing the elements in a population. It is a complete list of all units from which a sample is drawn. For example, a voter list, a list of students of all classes in a college, a telephone directory, and so on. Now, let us discuss target population. Target population is one to which the researcher would like to generalize his results. Two characteristics that always define the target population are geographic boundary and a distinctive time frame. Sampling trait. It is an element on the basis of which we take out sample from a total universe. It could be qualitative or attributive or quantitative element. Sampling bias. Sampling bias is a tendency to favor the selection of a participant that have particular characteristics. Sampling bias is usually the result of poor sampling plan. Sampling error. Sampling error may be defined as the degree to which a sample differs from the population characteristics on some measure. In general, as the sample size gets larger and larger in proportion of the population, the amount of sampling error is reduced. Now, one of the important, that is types of sampling. Sampling methods are broadly categorized into two groups. Number 1, probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Now, let us discuss probability sampling. Probability sampling is one in which every unit of population has an equal probability of being selected for the sample. In probability sampling, the probability of selection is known and is not zero, so there is some chance of selecting each element. This type of randomly select elements and therefore have no systematic bias. Nothing but chance determines which elements are included in the sample. This feature of probability samples makes them much more desirable than non-probability samples when the goal is to generalize to a large population. It offers high degree of representativeness. However, this method is expensive, time-consuming, and relatively complicated since it requires a large sample size and units selected are usually scattered. Probability sampling is further divided into following subtypes: simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, systematic sampling, cluster sampling, multi-stage sampling, and multi-phase sampling. Now let us discuss them each in detail. Number 1. Simple random sampling. In this method, each element has an equal probability or chance to be selected as a sample. It is a bias-free. Here an element cannot come twice as a sample. It is the most common method of sampling. This requires a complete list of total population, like all participants in a program, all students in the college, all households in a village, and so on. One of the following methods may be selected for drawing simple random sample. Number 1. Lottery method. This is the simplest way of making the selection of a sample. The number of items in a sampling frame is written on a sheet of paper or a card or any other object, and they are thrown into a box, drum, or a jar. All these cards are mixed well, and the investigator blindfolding himself and taking out a piece of paper card from the jar, box, or a drum. This process is continued until the required number of respondents is reached. Here is no partiality in favor of any item. Next, random numbers method. For a larger population and to ensure equal selection opportunities, a random number table may be used. After assigning consecutive numbers to the names on the population list, a number is randomly selected on the table by close eyes and point. Proceed either vertically or horizontally when a large sample must be generated. These procedures are very cumbersome. Fortunately, a computer program can easily generate a random sample of any size. The researcher must first number all the elements to be sampled, that is the sampling frame, and then run the computer program to generate a random selection of numbers within the desired range. The elements represented by these numbers are the samples. Now, stratified random sampling. In stratified random sampling, the population is first divided into different homogeneous groups or stratas, and a sample is drawn from each stratum. This division of population into homogeneous stratas may be based upon a single criteria, such as male or female, or upon combination of more criteria like sex, caste, level of education, and so on. This method is generally applied when different categories of individuals constitute population. Stratification does not involve ranking. Stratified random sampling may be of two types. Number 1, proportionate stratified random sampling, and number 2, disproportionate stratified random sampling. Proportionate stratified random sampling. In case of proportionate stratified random sampling method, the researcher stratifies population according to known characteristics and subsequently randomly draws the sample in a similar proportion from each stratum of the population according to its proportion. That is, the population is divided into several subpopulations depending upon some known characteristics. This subpopulation is called strata and they are homogeneous. Disproportionate stratified random sampling. In this method, the sampling units in each stratum is not necessarily be as per their population. In this case, some stratums are overrepresented and some are less represented. These are not truly representative sampling, still this to be used in some special cases. Now, next, that is systematic sampling. A systematic sample is one in which every nth subject on a list is selected for inclusion in the sample. The n refers to the sampling interval and may be every third or 10th subject. The value of n is determined by dividing the population size by the sample size. Let us say that you have a list of 10,000 persons. You decide to use a sample size of 1000. By dividing 10,000 to the 1000, you get the sample of 10. That is, if you choose every 10th name, you will get the sample size of 1000. Systematic sampling is also known as interval sampling. Every member from the population does not have an equal chance of being selected. The selection of members for the sample depends on the initial selection. Regardless of how you select your starting point, once selected, every subsequent member of the sample is automatically determined. This method is clearly non-random. Next type of sampling is cluster sampling. This is another type of probability sampling method in which sampling units are not individual elements of the population, but groups of elements or groups of individuals are selected as sample. In cluster sampling, the total population is divided into number of relatively small subdivisions or groups which are themselves clusters, and then some of these clusters are randomly selected for inclusion in the sample. Cluster sampling is useful when a sampling frame of elements is not available, as often in case of large population spread out across a wide geographic area or among many different organizations. A cluster is a naturally occurring mixed aggregate of elements of population, with each element appearing in one and only one cluster. Schools could serve as cluster for sampling students, blocks could serve as cluster for sampling city residents, and businesses could serve as clusters for sampling employees. Drawing a cluster sample is at least a two-stage procedure. First, the researcher draws the random sample of clusters. A list of clusters should be much easier to obtain than a list of individuals in each cluster in the population. Next, the researcher draws a random sample of elements within each selected cluster because only a fraction of the total cluster is involved. Obtaining the sampling frame at this stage should be much easier. Next, that is multi-stage sampling. In this type, sampling is selected in various stages, but only the last sample of the subject is studied. For example, for studying the panchayat system in villages in India, India can be divided in zones, say 4 zones: east, west, north and south. One state is selected from each zone, say Punjab, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh and Assam. One district is selected from each state. One block is selected from each district, and 3 villages are selected from each block. This will help in comparing and functioning the panchayats in different parts of India. Sampling in each stage will be random. Next type is multi-phase sampling. The process of this type of sampling is same as in multi-stage sampling. However, in a multi-phase sampling procedure, each sample is adequately studied before another sample is drawn from it. Consequently, while in multi-stage sampling, only the final sample is studied. In multi-stage sampling, all samples are researched. This offers an advantage over other types of sampling because the information gathered at each phase helps the researcher to choose a more relevant and more representative sample. Now, next type of sampling, that is non-probability sampling. Non-probability sampling makes no claim for representativeness, as every unit does not get the chance of being selected. It is the researcher who decides which sample unit should be chosen. Non-probability sampling methods are often used in qualitative research. They are also used in quantitative studies when researchers are unable to use probability selection methods. In qualitative research, a focus on one setting or a very small sample allows a more intensive portrait of activities and actors, but it also limits field researchers' ability to generalize and lowers the confidence that others can place in these generalizations. The use of non-probability sampling methods in quantitative research too often reflects a lack of concern with these generalizations or lack of understanding of the importance of probability-based sampling. This is biased type of sampling bears large sampling errors. This type of sampling is rarely adopted in large and important purposes. However, for research purposes, this may be taken by the research scholar. Non-probability sampling is further divided into following subtypes. Number 1, convenience sampling. Number 2, purpose sampling. Number 3, quota sampling, and finally snowball sampling. Now let us discuss each these kinds in detail. Number 1, convenience sampling. This sampling method is also known as haphazard, accidental, or availability sample. Elements are selected for convenience sampling because they are available or easy to find. There are many ways to select elements for a convenience sampling, like standing on street corners and talking to whoever walks by, asking questions of employees who have time to talk when they pick up their paychecks at the personal office, or approaching particular individual at opportune times while observing activities in a social setting. You may find yourself interviewing available students at campus hangouts as a part of a course assignment. A convenience sample is often appropriate in social research. For example, when a field researcher is exploring a new setting and trying to get some sense of the prevailing attitudes, or when a survey researcher conducts a preliminary test of a new set of questions. Next type is purposive sampling. Purposive sampling is a non-probability sampling method in which elements are selected for purpose, usually because of their unique position of sample elements. Purposive sampling is also known as judgmental sampling. In purposive sampling, the researcher purposely chooses person who in his judgment have some appropriate characteristics required for sample members and thought to be relevant to the research topic and easily available to him. Purposive sampling may involve studying the entire population of some limited groups or a subset of a population, or a purposive sample may be a key informant survey which targets individuals who are particularly knowledgeable about the issues under investigation. For example, suppose the researcher wants to study beggars. He knows the 3 areas in the city where the beggars are found in abundance. He will visit only these 3 areas and interview beggars of his choice and convenience. Next, quota sampling. Quota sampling is a non-probability sampling method in which elements are selected to ensure that the sample represents certain characteristics in proportion to their prevalence in the population. The problem is that even when we know that a quota sample is representative of the particular characteristics for which quotas have been set, we have no way of knowing if the sample is representative in terms of any other characteristics. For example, quotas have been set for gender only. Under these circumstances, it's no surprise that the sample is representative of the population only in terms of gender, not in terms of race. This is not same as stratified random sampling because not every element in the population is identified and has an equal opportunity of being included. Now, the last type, that is snowball sampling. In this technique, the researcher begins the research with a few respondents who are known and available to him. Subsequently, these respondents give other names who meet the criteria of research, who in turn give more new names. This process is continued like a snowball until adequate number of persons are interviewed or until no more respondents are discovered. Snowball sampling is useful for hard to reach or hard to identify population for which there is no sampling frame, but the members of which are somewhat interconnected. At least some members of the population know each other. It can be used to sample members of groups such as drug dealers, prostitutes, practicing criminals, participants in Alcoholic Anonymous groups, gang leaders, informal organization leaders, and homeless persons. With this, dear students, we have concluded today's lecture on sampling. Hope you have grasped the concept well. Thank you.